I don't see any turkeys here. Looks like all of the more reasonably priced turkeys are also unavailable. Today I want to look at the question, is it time to cancel Thanksgiving? I've been hearing this idea come up, and I read an article that was posted back in October that talked about how 1 in 4 Americans were considering canceling Thanksgiving this year due to the rising food costs. And my initial gut reaction was, why would we cancel Thanksgiving when the food is not what Thanksgiving is actually about? While I believe that is true, Thanksgiving is a time for being able to reflect on things that we are thankful for and the things that we do have. I wanted to dig a little deeper into the idea that people might feel the need to cancel such a celebration because they couldn't afford the food. Forbes just came out with an article that talked about the average cost of a 10-person Thanksgiving dinner being around $64 this year. That is up 20% or more from our previous year. And of course, depending on where you live in the United States, that price is going to be a little bit different, as the $64 is just your average cost. The article discussed that out west, which would be the area I live in, an average 10-person meal would be around $71. That seems like a lot to me. You can see by the picture that I showed at the beginning of this video, the cheapest turkeys that I have seen around our area have been 98 cents, and those were completely gone. The cost of turkey has greatly impacted the overall cost of Thanksgiving. Not only is the turkey to blame for some of this rise in cost, but just food in general has gone up more than 20%. As I started looking into this a little bit more, we have a lot of families that are challenged this year with being able to cover the cost of food. If you're struggling to cover everyday food costs, increasing the amount of food or trying to engage in a larger celebration just might not be something that you're able to do. And I want to keep that in mind as we're coming up to the holiday season. I want to be sensitive to the fact that not everyone is in a position where they have extra food put back in the pantry, and not everyone is in a position where they've been working on gardening or trying to become a little bit more self-sufficient. Everyone is at a different point on the continuum towards self-sufficiency, and some of those who are not in a position where they've been able to do that are really struggling right now. And I want to keep that in mind as we're going through the holiday season. If you have the ability to be able to help someone in need, there are a lot of places where you can give things locally. Food banks are definitely always looking for more donations. If you wanted to sponsor a family, you could check with local schools and see if they're working on sponsoring families for Thanksgiving or Christmas. And that's a great way to try and help some families within your local community. A lot of the community resources that we have seen in the past are, for whatever reason, not helping and supporting our local families, whether that's because donations are down or volunteers are not there to help organize some of these things. I'm not really sure, but I do know that at least in my local area, a lot of the community resources that we've been able to turn to in the past are just not available for some of our local families. So first and foremost, if you have the ability, this is a great time to try and support others who are struggling a little bit right now. A Thanksgiving celebration does not have to revolve around certain types of food or a certain amount of food. Really, the concept of Thanksgiving and setting aside one day to really focus on things that we're thankful for is a wonderful idea, and something that can be done no matter who you decide to invite or what kind of meal you're going to serve during that time. We should be thankful every day of the year, but it's nice to set aside dedicated time to consider and reflect on the blessings from the previous year. If you are planning to have a traditional Thanksgiving gathering and meal, there are a few things that you could do to reduce the cost. Number one would be to reduce the size of your gathering. If you have typically had a huge gathering, maybe it might be a year to just scale things back a little bit and still have that celebration, but maybe not have quite as many people. Another thing you could do is something that my family's always done. We've always had everyone bring something to Thanksgiving dinner. One person wasn't responsible for the whole entire meal. Everybody would bring something. It's a great way for people to participate in the preparation of the meal and to feel like they have contributed something to the meal. And it kind of brings another level of togetherness by having everyone bring something to share. If you've never done that before, share your idea with the people who are going to be coming to your gathering and encourage them to think about something that they enjoy making and that they could bring with them. And if you're not the person who's hosting, you could help kick it off by offering to bring something and encouraging others who are going to be coming to do the same. And that's a great way to spread some of that cost out amongst multiple people rather than expecting one person to pay for the whole thing. Another way that you can save some money during a Thanksgiving meal might be to make some things from scratch. If you haven't done this in the past, it does take a little bit more time, but there are ways to save some money and also increase the quality of the food that you are going to be providing. So we've been really fortunate this year. We had a nice pumpkin harvest. So in order to make the pumpkin pie, you can take and cook down your pumpkin and make your pie filling from that cooked pumpkin. And homemade pie crusts are relatively inexpensive. You don't need many ingredients, and it can just save you some money in the long run. Making homemade bread, you can make homemade stuffing from leftover breadcrumbs. Lots of things that you can do to utilize either things that you've grown in the garden or offset the cost with making things from scratch. The other thing you can do is change up the menu just a little bit. It doesn't have to look one particular way. If you have a garden and you've preserved some items and you had an exceptionally good harvest in one area or another, consider swapping out some of those foods that you've grown a lot of for things that you might have typically had, so that you are using things that you've already preserved and put away. This can be a great way to offset some of those costs. In conclusion, should we cancel Thanksgiving? That's up to the individual person, of course, but in my opinion, no. There are ways that we can offset costs and yet still set aside that time to consider things that we are thankful for from the previous year. If today's video was helpful to you, please click like. We'd love to have you subscribe and be part of our community here at Blooming Wildwood Homestead. Until next time, bye everyone.